As we continue with music, now we're going to do something that adds an extension to what we've already done. We've talked about scales and how notes follow one another up and down the scale, and the intervals between them and what kind of key they're in, whether you need sharps or flats. There's also a natural sign, which we haven't discussed, but it's a little sign that says if there was an F sharp, we don't need it in the next measure because we're in a different key. That's a natural sign that gets rid of either the sharp or the flat. Now, the next step is this. Notes go up and down the scale on those little flat, on the little note, little files, little things like this, either on the space or the line. Now, the other thing is sometimes chords are made when notes don't follow each other along those lines, but what happens is you can put notes together above each other, saying you have a C here, an E here, and a G here. You can put all three of those together, and what they will do is make a chord, one note on top of the other on those lines. Rather than going along this way, they're exactly on top of each other. That is called a chord. A chord means that you have more than one note sounding at the same time. Now, you may have many notes sounding at the same time or only two. For example, ancient music, if there were more than one note, would have it a C and a G, five up from C. Only those two together. And they would use them. Now, later music would go and have maybe not a G all the way up, but an F, which is a four steps up instead of five, and they would use that chord quite often. Now, this is in ancient music. As music evolved, those chords became more complex or more complete. And some chords even went so far as to have more than three notes or four or five notes. They are chords that can make music sound much more sophisticated and much more interesting. For instance, jazz music is like that. It has your normal chords, but what will it do when it's playing? It will add a lot more to it than what's just on the page, for example. These people are reading the music, but they're also inventing sound in their mind and playing it through their instrument, whatever it is. That's what jazz is like. It doesn't just play what's on the page. It's called improvisation. They are improvising. They are improving what's already done by adding something to it. Now, the thing about chords is this. Chords have relationships to one another. When you're in a certain key, like the key of C, for example, the chord G along with C, C is the main chord, G is the dominant chord, and F is the subdominant chord. That is to say, when you play in that key of C, those are the chords that are used most often, and G is the most powerful one other than C, and F is slightly less powerful than F, than G, slightly less powerful than G. So those are what chords are like. Plus, when you're in any key, as you know, if it's not C, you need sharps and flats to show what the notes actually are. Now, I have a book. Well, it's not really a book. It's like a book. It's called The Chord Wheel. The Chord Wheel. Now, I will show you what it looks inside, but on the outside is where you actually get to what counts. What this is for is to allow you to compose your own music, learning about chords and how they work. And it's quite fascinating in many ways. And it's called The Chord Wheel. That's what the book is called. I will show you this soon because it actually turns out to be what I would call one of the ultimate tools for all musicians. And I will show you why it's so helpful. This is what allows you to know how chords are made and which ones belong mostly together, and whether you need sharps or flats and where you need them. So we will continue next time with this book called The Chord Wheel, the Ultimate Tool for All Musicians.